Okay, so you may think, well, that's a lot of information to remember just for the past tense. You need to know that there are three parts. The first part is the subject, then the auxiliary, then the past participle. You also need to know that there are two different auxiliaries depending on the verb, and then you need to know how to take the infinitive and transform it into the past participle. And some past participles are irregular and blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of rules to remember. Now, it's useful to know those rules, so that means that you can just take any verb and you can conjugate it in the past tense. But if you don't want to learn the rules and you want a shortcut, well, this is it here. You don't need to know that this first part here is called the subject, and that's the auxiliary, and that's the past participle. You don't need to know that. You can just memorize this here as a chunk, right? J'ai fait, which means I did or I made. Now, here are a list of 10 verbs that I've prepared. These are 10 verbs that I think you'll probably find to be the most useful in your GCSE speaking and writing, just because of how frequently you use them. And I think that if you know these 10 off by heart, and you know what they mean in English, then I think that's kind of a really good start already. Obviously, if you want to use other verbs, for example, you want to say, what's a verb here that's missing? But I don't know, I danced or something. Obviously, you can add that to your own list, right? This is just a suggestion. I think these verbs would be quite useful. And here you'll notice that I've divided that. Now, please mind the kids shouting. I don't know if you can hear them. I hope not. Um, but these two verbs here, 9 and 10, they use a different auxiliary. So they use the être auxiliary. So they use je suis instead of j'ai, right? Because as we mentioned earlier, j'ai is much more frequently used than je suis. So that's just there divided. So if you don't want to learn all those rules, take a screenshot of that, put them into flashcards, memorize them. If you don't know how to memorize flashcards, watch the video that I made explaining how to memorize flashcards. And that's our shortcut for the past tense.